bottom. Now the fans will spot him. Talk of the type of, can't even stop it. Lot of you copy, here for the profits. Find you a hobby, cause it's bread on your noggin. Now the fans will spot him.
Yo guys, it's Down the Field podcast, and today we're here with second team All-SEC player in 2023, third team All-SEC preseason player in 2024, and former Florida Gator Joshua Braun. This is this is a great opportunity to get to interview you. I'm pretty excited about these questions. Came up with these just the other day, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask you the first question. So, I mean, I know for a lineman, you gotta have some kind of muscle, you gotta have some kind of mass. So, what's your diet that you had? I mean, what's your diet that you need to block up front?
Yeah, I mean, it changes player to player, really, just because everyone genetically is different, and so you have some guys who need to put on weight, some guys who need to lean out. Throughout my career, I've always been kind of more so on the lean out side as opposed to put on weight, and so that just really comes down to having a scheduled or having a regimen that you adhere to pretty much every day, whether it's in season or off season. And usually I start my day out with eggs. I like my eggs sunny side up. So I'll do about 6 eggs, and then a breakfast meat to go along with it, either bacon or sausage. And then I usually make a breakfast sandwich. And so I'll have 2 to 4 pieces of bread and make it into 2 sandwiches for breakfast. And then I've never been a big lunch guy. And so I usually either eat a light lunch, maybe a small sandwich, or during the season, I'll eat either a small sandwich or like a protein bar as I go into practice. And then the recovery aspect after practice, I have a protein shake, which I think I was talking with our dietitian, and she said the protein shake I take is about 350 to 400 calories. And then it's got enough protein in there, obviously, to meet my needs. And then I just have dinner, just a normal dinner, just a meat and 3, whether that's I try to have a variety of colors, so carrots, broccoli, vegetables, things of that nature, and try to stay away from overly carby foods like pastas and things of that nature until it gets closer to game day. And so I'll eat the night before a game is usually when I eat the most for dinner.
So, I heard whenever I went to the meet and greet that you were at, I heard a guy ask you this question. It was either you or he asked Addison this question. And as soon as I heard it, I'm like, that's a great question. What has been the hardest team so far that you've went up against to block up front? Because, every team is different.
Yeah. Let me see. I would say the hardest, like in my career or this season.
I mean, you can do this season and your career if you want to.
Yeah. See, I've always struggled against the smaller, quicker D linemen compared to like the bigger and stronger ones, in my opinion. And so my sophomore year, like we played Alabama and Georgia, and I mean they were some of the best D lines in the SEC that year. I mean, you had Jordan Davis, you had the first round or first pick in the draft, playing D end alongside him, and I mean those were solid D lines. But I feel like me personally, when I played Missouri that year or South Carolina, their D line was harder to block for me just because they were shifty and there were a lot of movements, and you had to be really technically and assignment sound during that game. It's when you look at the style of play from D lineman to D lineman, a lot of teams in the SEC, the D line will either fire out with their hands, and try to read what's going on and then react and attack. And then some teams will attack and then react to what's going on. And I always felt like the teams that react and then attack, I have an easier time blocking than the teams that just come out.
So I know you have like some days where you watch film, some days you go to the weight room or whatever it is. What is your daily routine like from day to day throughout your week?
Yeah, so Sundays we have a team lift, which is optional. It's either you can either go Monday morning at like 6:30 in the morning, or you can go Sunday afternoon. So I'll just take you after a game. I wake up Sunday. I have treatment from noon to 1:45, where I rehab and recover whatever I tweaked during the game, and then we have a lift at 1:45. So I'll lift from 1:45 to 2:30. Then I'll cold tub until about 3, and then go home and I'll be off. Whether that's to catch up on homework or date night with my wife, something of that nature on Sunday evenings, and then Monday is sort of the uh, start of the week, get ahead on the game plan, kind of ease you into the preparation for the week. And so I don't have anything Monday until 1 p.m., which is when tape and pre-practice starts. And so I'll go into the facility around, if we have a home game, I usually go around 12:31. If we have an away game, I go in around 11 on Mondays. And then I just get more treatment, rehab, recovery, cold tub, hot tub. And then every day we have meetings, pre-practice football meetings at 2:30. And then every day we get out of practice around the same time. It's kind of like 6:15, 6:30-ish. And then Monday through Wednesday, we meet as an offensive line and have film for about an hour after practice. And so that usually starts around 7, usually ends around 8. And so I get home every day around 8:15, Monday through Wednesday. And then by then, it's basically eat dinner, then go unwind before bed. I try to get at least 8 hours of sleep every night just to just keep the body healthy, really. I think sleep is a really underrated aspect of people's recovery, and it's something that I try to maximize. But then Thursdays, we get out of practice a little earlier. I think I'll get home on Thursdays around 6 o'clock, 6:15. And then that's like that's kind of the last little bit of you time you have before the game on Saturday. And so that evening, I try to get away from football, kind of decompress, whether that's take my dog to the park, go out to dinner, things of that nature. And then fry up, it's basically all business. I wake up, I try to get to the facility as early as I can. I eat breakfast or lunch at the Jones, depending on the schedule for the day. And then we meet for about 2 hours. Then we have a walkthrough, which is about 30, 40 minutes. And then if it's a home game, we bus over to the hotel. If it's an away game, we go to the airport and fly. And we usually get to the hotel around 5 o'clock, 5:30 the night before a game. And then we try to have dinner at 6. And then basically every week it's the same. We have dinner at, let's say, 6:10. And then we have chapel at 6:50. And then chapel's over at 7:05. And then usually we'll meet for about 30 minutes. And so we'll meet 30, 45 minutes as a offensive unit, and then we'll break up into our position groups and meet with our position coaches for another 30 minutes. And so the night before a game, usually we're done around 8:30. And then if it's a early morning game, if it's an 11 a.m. kick, like it is this weekend, bed check is at 9:30 the night before a game in the hotel. And then if it's a afternoon game or an evening game, bed check's 10:30. Or I think it's 9:30 morning, 10 o'clock afternoon, 10:30 evening. So we go to our rooms, they come around, check that we're in there, and then we go to bed, wake up, and then it's game time. So
Um, I like how you went into every single part of it. If it's like a morning game, a night game, I liked how you went into detail on that.
yeah, it's just those little things that you don't really think about, but when you sit down, you're like, yeah, I mean, if it's a night game, you have 8 extra hours that you have to occupy.
Right. So my next question is, what was your dream college growing up, the college that you really wanted to go to?
Yeah, so growing up, I had my brother played college football at Georgia Tech. And then my middle brother also played college football at Georgia Tech before transferring to Texas. And then my dad played at West Point. So growing up, I watched the West Point game and the Georgia Tech games pretty much every weekend. So I didn't really have a favorite college, so to speak. But I mean, growing up in Florida, you kind of always hear about the Florida Gators. You're either a Gator or a Seminole, and at least where I'm from. And so I guess just growing up in Florida, I didn't even know how much the Florida Gators were a big part of my childhood until I got there. But I would say Florida was probably my dream school just as a kid, just because I was from Florida. Well,
So,
actually, I take that back. So I actually really wanted to go to Stanford because I was really interested in psychology and I wanted to be a psychiatrist. But we went out there and we went on a visit all the way to Palo Alto, and they didn't offer me because they didn't think I'd be able to pass the ACT to get into their school, which was a gross oversight on their part. But so yeah, because the offensive line coach at Stanford at the time, who ended up being the head coach at Rice, was recruiting my brother when I was in seventh grade, and my dad was like, "Look, my brother Parker, he's not really." He doesn't really want to go to Stanford, but his little brother is the one who you're gonna want because he wants to go to Stanford. And so if you would ask me in seventh grade, I would have committed to Stanford right away and not even looked at any other colleges.
I mean, they kind of overlooked you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, their fault, their problem.
So, I mean, kind of staying on like the dream path, if you could get drafted by any NFL team, like maybe because of the atmosphere, the fans, the quarterback you're blocking for, the running back, whatever, what team would you want to be drafted for?
Yeah, I've given this some thought, and I know it sounds cliche, but honestly, I would be lucky to get a chance with any team, and so I I don't necessarily have a favorite. I just want to go to a good fit with a head coach I can be proud of that is leading me, and a quarterback that is a good person. Um, but I guess if I had to choose, I would love to go back home to Florida just because it's where my family is. Uh, but now that I've been living out here for a while, I hear a lot about the Cowboys and Jerry Jones and all that. And then playing in the Cowboys Stadium once a year is pretty sweet. And so, I mean, it would just be cool to be a Cowboy. I always hear about them being America's team, so got to go see what that's about.
My like basically all my family is a Cowboys fan, and I like my whole life I'm like I will not be a Cowboys fan.
Really?
I did not want to be a Cowboys fan.
Well, who are you a fan of?
Well, I'm a Chiefs fan, but the thing is,
Oh yeah, okay.
it's not because of Patrick Mahomes and all that.
It's
I
not
actually
because they're winning.
no, I have an Alex Smith jersey on my door right here.
Okay, all right.
Like I love Alex Smith and all that. So, um, this next question is I hate asking it every time, but it's like one of my other friends who used to do podcasts with us. Every time he'd ask this question, we were like, "Oh my gosh, why do you have to ask that question every time?" And he would always do it, but we kind of kept the tradition. So it's midnight, and you want to go get something to eat. Where are you gonna go get something to eat? It can be local, wherever.
So, in Fayetteville, I've learned nothing is open past like 9 p.m. except for like Whataburger. Uh, but in Florida, we don't have it here, so I don't know if you're familiar. But have you heard of Checkers?
I actually had a Checkers on the way to Florida a couple months ago.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, dude, Checkers is the best. So if it
Checkers
was
is pretty good.
midnight, I would go to Checkers and get their 2 for $4, 2 for $5. Yeah,
Checkers is pretty good.
their fries are the best.
I know you haven't been a hog for too long, but what is your favorite moment as a hog so far?
I mean, that would have to be the Tennessee field storm. I have never been a part of a field storming on the winning side, and so that was special. That was unique. I mean, beating a top four team was good. So I would say for this season, that would be my favorite memory. But then it was special to be able to go back to Florida and get a victory in the swamp. That was nice. So I think those two memories I'll probably cherish for a long time.
What was the other field storm that you were part of that it wasn't on the winning side?
So in 2022, I lost at Tennessee and they stormed the field. In 2021, I lost at Kentucky and they stormed the field. And in 2021 again, I think there was two in 2021. I can't remember. But those two definitely stand out in my mind. Losing at Tennessee and at Kentucky, they stormed the field.
I mean, I don't know, you kind of got revenge against Tennessee, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Got
that
the
felt
last
good.
laugh.
That felt good.
I don't know, like this kind of a sidetrack, but I don't know about you, but I've been like hoping Tennessee does really, really good to make us look a
Yeah,
lot better.
yeah. I mean, after you play a team, you always want them to do well. I mean, it's except for big rival games. I mean,
Well,
you
see,
always want.
I'm just saying them be really good because it's be like, hey, we beat them, and it seems like nobody else can. You know, it's like that's something
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, that would always be good for the resume.
And it's like I'm not a big fan of Oklahoma or OU, and I'm like, I mean, we beat my friend's an OU fan. I'm like, well, we beat Tennessee, and you guys couldn't do that. So,
Yeah.
um, so some people they have like, I guess like a maybe a star player or something that they looked up to and they styled their game off of, or even a musician that they like. Like, I guess who would be your celebrity idol if you had one?
uh, I have to go with an author, and I've been on a big J.R.R. Tolkien kick and C.S. Lewis. I've been kind of going back and forth between the two. But yeah, I mean, I'm working through reading C.S. Lewis's all of his theological works right now. But yeah, actually, it's a funny story. So Tolkien and Lewis were friends, and they like made a bet with each other about who could write a time travel novel and who could write a science fiction novel. And so they put time travel and science fiction into like a hat and they shook it up. And C.S. Lewis drew a science fiction novel and Tolkien drew a time travel novel. And so C.S. Lewis wrote a science fiction trilogy with the first installment being Out of the Silent Planet, and actually just started reading Out of the Silent Planet today, this morning, because I want to say I finished The Great Divorce yesterday. And so I'm a bit of a nerd. So in my free time, I watch YouTube videos about Lord of the Rings and Tolkien. I'm working through, there's this guy who has a podcast called The Tolkien Professor, and he's going through all the Tolkien's works. And it's a lecture series that I'm listening to. So those are, if I had to choose a celebrity idol, it'd be those two.
See, I'm like, I don't know if I consider myself a nerd in that aspect. I'm more of a, I'll sit down and I'll watch 3 hour highlights of like players and stuff just for no reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always been into that.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, I'm the same way just with Lord of the Rings.
Like, there's this one guy, his name on Instagram is like Wasted Athlete, and he every week it'll be like coldest photo of the week, and it'll show like a crazy play in the NFL, and he'll get a picture of it, and it looks so cool. I'm like, that is awesome. So, is there like a specific purpose behind your jersey number? I ask every athlete this, and some of them have an answer. Some of them were just like, it was just given to me.
Yeah, no, so I've gone back and forth between 78 and 72 during my career, and that's just because when I first got to Florida, um, 78 was the only number in the 70s, and I wanted to be a number in the 70s, and it was also my oldest brother's number when he played college football. And then 72 was my dad's number when he played college football. And so I've just been going back and forth between the two just because they were the ones that were open in the 70s, and just like as a sort of a tribute to them, because they're the ones who came before me, and they really set the stage for me.
So, I mean, I know you've given a couple athletes in your family, like your brother and your father, but I guess who, if, let me restart. Out of your entire family, who influenced you to do what you do today?
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned a lot of athletes in my family, but I guess my dad always likes to say the most athletic one in the family is my mom. And she played college basketball at West Point. Both my parents played at West Point Army, and she actually is on the leaderboard for rebounds for the women's basketball team. I think she's in the top 10 or something. And so, I mean, she's really the one uh, who gave me my athletic ability. Thank you, bud. Sorry, my nephew brought me a sandwich and Oreo ice cream. Is this for me? Wait, really? It's yours. Oh, oh, you got mint? Oh, he did bring me ice cream. I was making a joke. But yeah, my mom is just really the one I guess I would have to attribute everything to.
So, I know that I was watching an Addison Nichols interview, and he said he got like 32 other D1 offers and stuff before he came to Arkansas.
Mhm.
How many offers did you get, and why did you choose Arkansas?
Mhm. You're talking about out of the portal?
I mean, yeah, from like
Yeah.
as you were leaving Florida, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually don't know. I didn't really count. So I was committed to Coach Pittman when he was at Georgia. And so in the back of my mind, I always knew that if I ever were to enter the portal, it would be to follow him to Arkansas. And so, I mean, I'm sure teams offered me, but there wasn't much, there wasn't much interest on either side just until after I went to Arkansas, I had a visit. I went through did my due diligence for Arkansas, because if it wasn't a good fit, I'd have to go somewhere else. But when I got here, it ended up being a great fit. And so, I mean, the rest is history.
So I didn't come up with this question, but I feel like it's still a pretty good question. What is it like playing in the trenches in the like just being an O lineman? Because I've never interviewed an offensive lineman.
Mhm.
I mean I don't. It's a weird question, but it's actually not a bad question, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I mean, we're probably the position with the most contact. We're face to face with our opponent every day or every play. And so it's kind of, you get to know your opponent during the game really well. And it can be fun. I mean, the Tennessee D line, they were funny. Like during the game, they were like would make jokes and it would be funny, and that was made it was enjoyable. I'm sure fans don't want to hear that their players were cracking jokes during the game, like after a play or anything. But I mean, it's there's nothing like it. You're not going to get anything else in any sport that's even remotely close to being a lineman. So that's what I like about it.
I bet they wouldn't want to hear that even more after they they
Uh,
lost that game.
yeah, I'm sure they would.
Yeah, I mean the defensive line played amazing that game, and the offensive
Oh
line played
yeah,
even better that game too. It was like every year it's our defense, sometimes they struggle a little bit, and our offensive line is really good. And then sometimes it flips, but it was like it seemed everything was clicking that game.
yeah. When we're clicking, it makes it fun, man.
So, how do you mentally prepare yourself going into an SEC matchup? I mean, even if it's an away game, how do you mentally prepare yourself to go out there and play your best game?
Yeah, I was talking to the strength coaches about that today. So I watch, like I said, I'm a big Lord of the Rings nerd, and so I watch 3 clips on the bus ride to the stadium. I watch, well, yeah, 3 to 4 clips. The first one is the opening to the Helm's Deep battle in Two Towers, um, where Theoden says, "And so it begins," and there's rain and the Uruk-hai and there all that. And then I watched the end of the Helm's Deep battle where Theoden says, what can men do against such reckless hate? And Aragorn says, right out with me. And then I watch the speech at the before the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, where Theoden says, "This is a lot of Bernard Hill, but he says, ride for ruin and the world's ending." And they cavalry charge into the spears and pikes and everything. And so that's what I watched to sort of get in that mindset, just because, I mean, that's basically what it is. Uh, it's a cavalry charge and you're going full speed ahead.
I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, I feel like it's kind of mentally preparing differently than everybody else because it's like
Mhm.
everybody like on the offense is like get away from the defender, and you guys are like I'm gonna go and get the defender.
Yeah,
It's just
that's a good way to put it.
yeah, it's a completely different. It's a completely different viewpoint.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, obviously one of your hobbies is football, but what other hobbies do you have outside of football?
Yeah, I'm from where I'm from in Florida. There's a lot of freshwater springs, and so whenever I go back home, I like to free dive. I get my mask and my flippers, and we go out there to the springs, and it's about 40, 50 feet deep, and we just go swim around. I did that when I visit my family out in Pensacola. They have like a man-made like reef where you can dive at, and so I've been out there a couple times. But other than that and reading, I mean, those are pretty much my two big hobbies. I'm like I have an Xbox, but I'm not like a big gamer. I like board games. I like oh, there's this crossword that I started doing. I got back into it. I used to do it every day, but then I forgot. But it's called the Quick Cryptic crossword on the Guardian. It's pretty fun. Do you do the like the Wordle and the like those things?
So every morning whenever I get to school, because I'm in my first class is an AP class, and I don't want to do that, so I try and get myself in like the mindset. I do a Wordle, and then there's this one. It's called Fumble, and it's all NFL players, and you got to try and guess just off the silhouette and the team and everything.
Oh wow.
I love doing that one. And then there's one called Bandle, and it'll play like a couple snippets of a song. It'll be like the drums and then the electric guitar. I love music. So
Yeah.
I'll listen to that and you have to guess the song. Those are like the three. And then I do crossword puzzles with my aunt whenever I go over there.
Hmm. So give the quick cryptic a look. It's pretty fun. It's like a twist on a crossword. I like it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll have to try it. Actually, I'm gonna write that down. It's quick cryptic.
Yeah, quick cryptic. And it's through the Guardian, which is like I think it's an English newspaper. I'm not quite sure. I think it's based out of London.
All
The
right.
reason I say that is because they use a lot of British spellings.
I'll have to look at that. So I have two questions left. One of them is more I guess one of them is more deep than the other one. So I'm gonna ask
Mhm.
the kind of more random one. Who's the most famous person you've ever met?
Shoot. Who is the most famous person I ever met? I met Ric Flair. Yeah, that would probably have to be. If he's not the most famous, he's definitely up there. He's the first one that comes to mind.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was a recruit at a Georgia game, and I was on the sidelines watching them warm up, and Ric Flair was like on the across the field, like filming something, and it was on the big screen. And my dad grabbed me. He's like, "We're gonna go meet Ric Flair," and the little like intern that was with us was like, "Oh, I don't think you can do that. Like that's against the NCAA policy." And we were like, "Oh, okay." And then we quietly sneaked off, and she like lost us, and we think she got in trouble, and we felt bad, but it was worth it to go meet Ric Flair.
I used to collect WWE action figures, and I
Really?
have I have a couple of Ric Flair.
Yeah, he he was a cool dude, man. Let me see. I met him. I've met Tim Tebow before. Who else have I met? I mean, I guess. I mean, like I played with Anthony Richardson. He's kind of famous. Yeah, but no, like outside of sports, I don't think I've met any famous celebrities.
I'm not a big fan of what they're doing at the Colts right now. It's like my opinion is it's kind of a hot take, I guess. I don't know. I feel like Anthony Richardson should sit behind Joe Flacco for the rest of this year. I mean, you can tell he's been dealing
Oh,
with
really?
injury. Well, you can tell he's been dealing with injuries. You can tell that he's ready for NFL play, but it just seems like his body isn't completely ready. And I feel like Joe Flacco is like he's 39 years old. He's as old as he's almost as old as my dad, and he's
Oh,
still
really?
out there. Yeah, and he's still out there slinging the football. And it's like I feel like Anthony Richardson could learn so much from Joe Flacco if he just maybe like
Yeah.
shadowed him. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I get
nothing
that.
against it's nothing against him. I just feel like he could be a more developed quarterback that way.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point you make. Yeah. The only
So,
thing I know about the Colts is that guy who makes that song every week.
this
This
is
is
our
our
Colts.
Colts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's awesome, man.
So the last question I have is how do you balance being a D1 football player and the rest of your life, like your academics and your relationships with everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes down to just time management. My first 2 to 3 years, whenever we were in season, I would do football and I would do schoolwork, and that was basically it. Um, and so I did that for about 3 years, and finally, like, got ahead in my schoolwork, so I didn't have to take as big of a load during the season. And the past 2 years, I've been taking like a lighter class load, so that's allowed me to be more present for family and for my wife, and be able to do things outside of football and school. But it really just for other, like if I were speaking to a freshman just getting to college as an athlete, I would say you really just got to buckle down the first year or two and take as many classes as you can to get ahead, and then you can take it easy. It's a lot harder to take it easy the first 2 years and then ramp it all up to finish your degree. And so just time management, you can't do everything, so you got to make sacrifices and you got to make choices and decisions that can be tough.
What are you majoring in?
So luckily, I was able to graduate from UF with a Bachelor of Arts in Classical Studies. And then when I got to Arkansas, I decided to pursue a master's in business administration. And so I'll graduate with my MBA in December. So I guess a month and a half.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's pretty good degree, honestly.
Yeah, it's solid, man. I'm not complaining. That's what made Arkansas pretty appealing. They were like, "Come here, we can get you an MBA, and you can be on your way." I was like, "All right, cool, sounds good."
So to wrap up, I'm gonna shout out Pigs brand real quick, and then I had a couple questions
Yeah,
after we were done filming.
sounds
Um,
good,
so Pigs brand, I just bought this hat off of Pigs brand.
dude. I
They
was
are
wondering where they got that hat. That thing looks cool.
Yeah, they are absolutely awesome. They sent me another hat for free. They are so cool. They sent me a bunch of stickers. Their hats are always super comfortable, and they sponsored me for one video a while back. They gave me some free stuff.
There you go.
And I always like to talk about Pigs brand towards the end of the videos.
Yeah, Pigs
But
brand. I need to look them up.
yeah, Pigs brand.
Is that like a candy corn color scheme?
Yeah. They said they were making like 30 of them, and I was like, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I gotta buy one.
Yeah, it looks cool. I've been looking at it this whole time.
Well, thank you guys for watching. This has been Down the Field Podcast with Joshua Braun.
Hmm. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for having me, man. This was a lot of fun.
It's been really fun.
That way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away.